Welcome to Big Idea Hardly, where you can learn something new in just a few minutes. Today, we understand Anna Raquel Minion's book, In the Shadow of Liberty, The Invisible History of Immigrant Detention in the United States, in which we probe into the complex evolution of immigrant detention in America and its impact on human rights. Anna Raquel Minion is a professor of history at Stanford University. The evolution of immigrant detention in America reveals a troubling history where human rights are often compromised. Understanding this evolution is crucial to recognizing the broader implications for democracy and justice. In this book, the history of immigrant detention is explored through compelling narratives and detailed historical analysis. This exploration begins with the inception of the entry fiction doctrine, which legally considers migrants stopped at the border as being outside the country, thus denying them constitutional rights. This doctrine has been a cornerstone of the detention system, shaping policies and practices for over a century. Story 1. Fernando and Andrea's harrowing journey. Fernando Arredondo's story epitomizes the human toll of this system. In the spring of 2017, Fernando and his daughter Andrea fled their home near Guatemala City due to gang violence. After crossing the US-Mexico border, they were detained at the Laredo Processing Center in Texas. The conditions were harsh. Fernando was searched, stripped of his shoelaces, and separated from Andrea, who was taken to a children's section despite her pleas. Fernando spent a sleepless night on a cold cement floor, only to be awakened by screams at 4 a.m. as children, including Andrea, were forcibly removed. This story highlights the traumatic experiences faced by detainees and underscores the inhumanity of the detention system. Story 2. Fu Chi Hao and the Boxer Rebellion. Fu Chi Hao's experience during the Boxer Rebellion illustrates the early struggles against a system that dehumanizes and detains migrants. In the summer of 1900, Chi Hao, a young Christian teacher, witnessed the brutal crackdown on Christians in northern China. His dedication to his faith and community led him to support missionaries during their time of need. However, his loyalty put him at risk, and he had to flee for his life. Chi Hao's eventual journey to the United States, only to be detained upon arrival due to bureaucratic errors, reflects the long-standing issues of unjust detention practices. His story shows the persistence of these practices and their roots in historical prejudices. Story 3. Ellen Knauf's post-war ordeal. Ellen Knauf's post-war journey provides another perspective on the impact of detention policies. A Jewish Holocaust survivor, Ellen married an American GI and moved to the United States, only to face unjust detention. Upon arrival, she was treated with suspicion and hostility by immigration officers who erroneously accused her of bigamy and detained her without due process. Ellen's detention and the subsequent legal battles she fought to secure her release highlight the systemic issues within the immigration detention system and the violation of basic human rights. The broader implications. These stories underscore the profound impact of the entry fiction doctrine and other detention policies on individual lives. The system has evolved to become increasingly punitive, using detention as a deterrent against migration. The abuse and inhumane conditions in detention centers, often hidden from public view, reveal a dark side of American democracy. Detention centers, originally intended to process and manage immigrants, have become sites of suffering and rights violations. A key quote from the book encapsulates this issue. Guantanamo-like facilities have arisen in towns and cities across America since the 19th century. Every day in the heart of the self-described greatest democracy on earth, people are incarcerated without charges for indefinite periods of time, under horrific conditions, and without basic constitutional protections. This quote highlights the continuity of abusive practices and the systemic nature of immigrant detention. Moving forward. As we reflect on these stories, it becomes clear that the history of immigrant detention in America is not just about the past, but also about shaping a just future. Recognizing and addressing the injustices of the detention system is crucial for upholding democratic principles and human rights. As the editor of Hurdley, learning from these histories, we can advocate for more humane and just immigration policies that respect the dignity and rights of all individuals. By understanding the complex evolution of immigrant detention and its impact on human rights, we can work towards a future where such inhumane practices are abolished and justice prevails. The complex evolution of immigrant detention in America and its impact on human rights reveals a troubling and persistent issue within the nation's history. This book uncovers the systemic injustices faced by migrants, highlighting the harsh realities and legal fictions that have shaped the detention system. Story: Gerardo Mansour and the Mariel Boat Lift. Gerardo Mansour's story during the Mariel Boat Lift of 1980 is a poignant example of the struggle for freedom. Desperate to escape Cuba's oppressive regime, Gerardo saw an opportunity when Castro announced that anyone wishing to leave could do so from the port of Mariel. Joining thousands of others, he embarked on a perilous journey to the United States. The conditions on the boats were dire, and many faced sickness and overcrowding. Despite these hardships, the hope of a better life in America kept their spirits high. Gerardo's determination and courage exemplify the lengths to which individuals will go to seek freedom and justice, even when faced with daunting obstacles. This story, like those of Fernando and Ellen, underscores the critical need to address the injustices embedded in the immigrant detention system. These narratives highlight the human cost of policies that prioritize deterrence and punishment over compassion and justice. As the editor of Hurdley, by learning from these stories, we can advocate for policies that respect the dignity and rights of all individuals, ensuring that the promise of freedom and democracy in America is upheld for everyone. By acknowledging and addressing the historical and ongoing injustices within the immigrant detention system, we can work towards a future where such inhumane practices are no longer tolerated.